Hi, everyone. A workshop meeting of the Springfield. I want to note presently except for Ed, who's not able to be here. How these present and here. Before we get started, just acknowledge History Month and the Lunar New Year. Everyone is due to celebrate those wonderful holidays this month. Before we begin, what matters are those in the audience here for today? Okay. Anyone else want to specify a topic? All right. So we have No Mo May and skate park. Anything else? So we'll bring the league agreements up front. Okay. Did we receive any public comments prior to this meeting, Mr. Manager?
Received several, yes, Madam President, we received several. They were all related to the skate park in Winmore, and all were generally opposed to that location.
Do you have a number exactly?
Sure. 2, 3, 4, 5.
A reminder for those on Zoom that you may submit formal public comment prior to any meeting if you're unable to attend in person, and you can find that on the agenda page, but you will not be able to interact with us. And just a little bit of housekeeping for those of us who haven't been here before, we will typically begin with our engineer's report. Then we will tackle the issues that we just talked about that people are present here for, any remaining public comment, and then proceed through our formal agenda. And with that, I welcome our engineer, Mr. Woodrow, to the floor.
Madam President, thank you very much for having me. A little follow-up from last month's meeting. Recall we were talking about Mr. O project to work storm sewer collection system through Veterans Park. So after last month's meeting, we had that conversation, and I'm happy to report that I think we're going to see a plan pretty straightforward pattern in those ongoing drainage issues along the fields through the park, and getting some drainage out to Traymore. So I think that's moving in the right direction. So good thing.
If a pathway were to be, would there be any impediments? Would it go along on top?
No, actually, it could go right on top of that drainage. Absolutely. The grade between that project, a little bit of a grade, but nothing that's, non-negotiable between the project and the park with, pretty good success. Yes. Great. Last month, we were talking about setting up a meeting with Army Corps of Engineers and PennDOT regarding the Walnut Avenue Trail extension to go through the SEPTA Bridge over to Penn Manor, and, a really nice effort to connect pedestrians between Upper Dublin and Springfield. We had that meeting. It went very well. The folks from Army Corps of Engineers saw the wisdom in what we were doing. The folks from PennDOT agreed that it was a good idea. They were concerned about this conservation recorded against acquired that land. They were disturbing in conjunction. And so finding that agreement, and the township hired a title consultant. They searched title. It's recorded against some. It does not appear that PennDOT ever actually on the PZAC property on Walnut in Springfield. And so, and they said, well, that makes things simpler, doesn't it? Andy, in those conversations, up with representatives from, it seems that it might be as easy as actually putting in place all those things that were meant to be in place, 20 years ago. but there is some very good support from the environmental side and from that connection, connecting. So that's a good project. I think we finally found the right people to talk to about those permissions.
That'll ultimately be an easement, new easement in favor.
And that's the theory, yes. We could lay out our path, memorialize with that in place.
And then clean up what didn't get done in the past, what would putting the environmental covenant on there.
Correct.
Somebody pen.
Um,
Don't
That-
have a live body. to
yeah,
respond to.
somebody we can actually talk to. For the longest time, geez, almost a year, we were just getting people pointing us in different departments. It's like we had the right people involved in the conversation now, which is good.
Are there,
Thanks to Tim's persistence.
that's great. Are there any more roadblocks suspected? I think that was the last one to getting to.
Yeah. Had is that we needed PennDOT their land. It's PennDOT owned property. And once we get the need from DEP, that is more. The permits seem to be reasonable. We actually had a pre-application meeting last summer with DEP and they gave on the same page from PennDOT. Except it was good. Yeah, Mike, absolutely.
They're doing a letter of support.
Absolutely. I sent an email out Jamie tonight regarding of that pedestrian bridge. Our Timber Bridge Products got back to us with a to build that new structure and a bit difficult to access from an. You'll see those prices came in. It was in about 165. Or some other things that we would need to do. Permits, some coordination, bidding, all those kinds of things. And in that memo, there's two sets of photographs. The first set of photographs is kind of the base model, and that's very similar to what York Timber Bridge has bid in their product or proposal to us. Then there's a bit of an upgrade. Like maybe a little bit more longevity, upgraded bridge products to add those kind.
One of the things I've noticed is and get the first rain after a long,
Yes.
you can kind of go down like it doesn't have that cost.
Yeah, so maybe it's a better solution. Yeah. So at this point, I don't know that, Mike, we have budgeted any place in accounting for this bridge replacement, but if take some grant funding for or 27 budget, the permission, if that was something to pursue.
Tim, how far would the entrance way location? Because I know the slope.
This would be in about the same look of that ramp would. We felt we could do was that feet. It's awfully high today, and our seen water rise that high that abutments of. The water would really spread out over the athletic to hit the bridge on. So by lowering that gives us the ability to and provide still the accessible, not make that so severe. Consideration.
Do you recall if this was significantly previous quote?
Yeah. Le-
Trying to figure out, because I couldn't figure the required add-on plus the cost of, um, theoretically, we could do in-house. Is that true? Can we do any of that in-house?
Do some of it.
Yeah, I think we could do some demolition in-house perhaps, Mike, some of that stuff. But this is a contractor. They travel the country building these bridges. So instead of coming in with a large crane and, pre-manufacturing the steel structure someplace off-site and bringing it in on a tractor trailer, there's a lumber delivery and these guys start going to work. It's pretty neat. Second photographs, I was involved in that project. Retirement community in Worcester. Probably about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago. Familiar with that installation, but I kind of watched the guys build the thing and it went pretty darn smooth. It was fun to see.
Do we have any grants that we can, now with these numbers that we could apply for with the project like this?
Yeah, I think the C2B2 grant through, BCNR is probably a good candidate for it.
And when might be the next cycle we could, put in for that?
I think that's coming up, developing up soon. We usually do some motion, yeah.
Right?
Oh, that timing worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's a 50-50
Yeah.
match, yeah,
Mhm.
come up with, but it's something.
For sure. Well, unless anyone has any questions on that, is that it, Tim?
That's all I had this evening. Yes.
Fabulous.
You could have naming rights too. Xfinity Bridge.
Yeah, right. Excellent.
We
Absolutely.
could do all sorts of stuff. I guess we're not.
Mr. Roberts.
Yeah. Good goodness. Great.
So we're not going to necessarily take action on that, but it sounds like there's an opportunity to apply for grant, at which time we can talk about how we could incorporate that. It's a long time project coming. And to know that it's half than the original cost estimated, sounds great.
It was a good thing. Great.
I do have, as I'm thinking about it, back to that Willow Grove project. At
Yes.
the planning commission meeting, there was a lot of talk about parking and I presume you're familiar with the parking amount there. I believe he said he could actually have more parking than that which was presented to us by the code. Is that your estimation or he's maxed out?
Oh, good question, Susie. I read those minutes from the planning commission meeting, and I don't know that I was able to sit down and compare the planning commission recommendations to the actual plan as of yet. My impression was he was pretty fully developed. The land as a building footprint and the parking. I don't know there was a, but it's something we can certainly look at.
Oh, no, I was just curious if it was fully maxed. I could add more parking and I just.
Yeah. I read
how
that in the
that's
minutes.
handled.
I didn't, but
Sure, right. I'll ta-
no, absolutely.
They definitely talk parking.
Right.
Rear of
Yes.
the building front,
Yes.
and Tim, looked at that and made a couple suggestions.
Yeah,
I
I think Mr. Overcash suggested that he didn't think he would be able to move the accessible parking spaces to the front of the building and still not violate our zoning code. But I sketched something up for him that I think meets the zoning code and still provides the ability to get those accessible parking spaces more toward the commercial end of the building. So we'll see if that works for him.
And
but-
just for the process, another item, I guess it sounds like you haven't looked at it, was a pathway from the back of the parking lot toward the front. Does that, are there any impediments to doing something like that?
You know what, Susan, I saw that in the planning commission meeting minutes. I don't know that I did the plan to see if that could occur. The proximity of the driveway to the building is kind of tight. So getting a driveway or getting a pathway through the back, I think it can be done, but it might take a little imagination to do it.
That's it. Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if this is for Tim or you, Mike. I'm just curious. The Halls Lane project, there's two other the plan that they're gonna go up soon, or is it?
Yeah, I know they have all the foundations in, Jim, so they're all set to go. Utilities are run. I think they were kind of basing their construction start of the units on the absorption of the ones they've already constructed. And I think they're doing fairly well in there. Every time I go by, it looks like there's another light on at night. So I think there's people moving in, but maybe springtime.
I don't know if you're off, but I'm recalling, one of the reports says that how many occupancy starts have been issued, right?
Yeah, that's more Mark than me,
That's
but
Beth.
yeah, Beth, right,
Yeah, but just
exactly.
because they issue a UNO doesn't mean that it actually is conveyed.
The UNOs have been issued for a number of years.
Yeah.
6 or 8, but I'd have to go back. and watch it. I definitely not seeing
Well,
that.
8 would be
Eight would be
all of them.
Yeah.
that are built to date.
Which would lead me to believe that if they've got 8 sold or 6 sold, that they would be starting that next building.
One of them's
fairly
definitely
soon.
sold, so I don't think
Yeah.
that's been sold or to be, but.
Yeah.
There's definitely 1 or 2 in front there that have been sold.
How about the ones on Willow Grove, just out of the, since from the topic?
Um,
2 left?
Something like that.
Yeah, They, as you point out, Jim, they were very slow to sell early on, but my understanding is that they have been conveyed, or the vast majority have been conveyed at this point, and they're moving better than they were initially. I think there was some critical mass they had to kind of get over.
And on that Willow Grove site, whenever everything's done and springtime comes, is there a follow-up check on the stormwater drainage system that got installed in the back?
Yes.
And what's the process for that? I'm just curious because I
Yeah.
know just for the benefit of anyone who may not have been there for the conversation, there was extensive conversation about doing additional stormwater management that was not required, but could be done to benefit the neighbors on the backside of Willow Grove.
That is correct. Yeah, and a lot of that is going to depend on when they get to complete the site. So, since all the buildings are up now, I think springtime would be a great time to finish up all the landscaping, to, finish the topsoil rake and seed, getting some grass to grow. But we are out there with pretty regular basis, Susie, checking on that stormwater stuff. There are some erosion control measures that are in place today that cause the inlets to be less efficient because they're filtering water, as opposed to when they're all done to stabilize, those filters come out and the inlets are more free flowing tomorrow versus what they're doing today. But that's all part of what we check up on as he's getting closer to finishing. We still hold a fair amount of money against that developer to make sure he performs the way the plan's intended.
Anyone else? All right. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, Tim.
Thank you. Have a great meeting.
Tim?
Thanks everyone for your patience. We're going to move into the public comment portion. First, I would like to deal with those for comments on those items that people are here for, because I think the order of discussion from shortest to longest is going to be NOMO, May, softball Little League, then skate park. I'm going to do it in that order. Well, actually, I'm going to do the softball Little League first, then NOMO, May, if that's all right. Let's start with the Little League topic, which is on tab M. All right, so this is just signing our Little League agreement. There's been a few changes and also some members of some of the Little Leagues have met with some members of the commissioners as well. Does anyone have any comments on these agreements? And I'll take it to our Park and Rec liaison.
Clear about what happened at the beginning. So, Jim Lee, Brendan May, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and I met to discuss some open concerns. Fruitful in that the league solidified its commitment concerns with the terms of the party going forward on the and use of both. That's what it's.
Springfield
Right.
Little League softball. Other questions or concerns? I believe there were just a couple. Right, there's a there so that the new members could sign the contract and have their name on the dotted line, be sure they're coming and reporting to the Park and Rec Committee, which the last Park and Rec Committee meet and get insight into the leagues, raise their hand to discuss any issues all throughout the year. And I think we're
No, I think you,
You want to have anything?
I just came with this question, so I'm happy to answer.
Okay.
Appreciate the department.
Well, I mentioned to the baseball league, I know that one of the things they're implementing this year is they hired a parking attendant for game days, which is great. I know you guys have already done something similar, right? To help, you know.
We haven't hired a parking attendant, but I can go.
Yeah,
yeah, please, thanks.
maybe hire is not the right word, but yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't hired a parking attendant. We do have that as a volunteer
Yeah.
position at the field.
Has that been useful? Have you seen that improve?
I think we need to do a better job with physical paper to show people where we're recommending them to go. So I know that's something we tested in the summertime last year. So I think that'll be something we do this year, just to like give people directions on like how you get from Veterans up to Win Hill. Yeah, so I think it's made it a little better, but we also have to do a little bit more. So
Yeah, we get the challenge, especially that where your fields are. It's a good thing your league has become so popular and growing. The downside of that is it gets really crowded. We know you're working hard on that and we would appreciate it.
yeah, and since I'm up here, just so everyone knows, like we've moved a percentage of our games to other fields to mitigate traffic flow, especially on the weekends. If I live there, I know that they see a lot of traffic. So, but there are some other like strategic things we look at as well.
Yeah. Thanks again for your partnership. I hope the singular meeting helps kind of give the neighborhood a chance to understand this is a great time to come and discuss your concerns so that they can implement any changes. You can implement any changes right at the top of the season rather than wait a whole year or have the concerns brought in mid-season. So thank you again.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have No Mo May. So this was not formally on our agenda, but a request by the EAC.
I appreciate it. I'm Martin Ryan. I'm a member of the EAC. Generally do No Mo May. Last year we had up to 150 homes. We filled 100 residential households participated in No Mo May. We sent out a survey afterwards. 46% responded, which is obscene. Usually it's like a good survey response is 20%. 96% of participants would recommend participation to a friend or neighbor. 4% replied maybe. 91% would participate next year. 4% said maybe, and 4% are moving out of the township, so they can't participate. 74% noticed an increase in pollinators, which is what No Mo May is all about. 87% excuse me, received no negative feedback. Most negative comments included, "It looks messy." 63% of participants are interested in education on lawn alternatives. Lawn alternatives include low growing mass, clover lawns, and your lawn by putting in more garden. We had a No Mo May participant. Very excited, but unfortunately later we found out it was just a neighbor dispute with the other one. And the recommendations for 20. We've been building slowly from 25 150. Can we just take anybody who wants to do it, because every year I get comment. Oh, I didn't want to take somebody. So I'm wondering about 10% a year. And if that continues, 10, how seems like every year. So why not? There any questions about that?
Last year we capped at 150, but we only had 100 participate. The removal of the cap, it's not like we'll suddenly have 5,000 lawns, but even if it turned into 5,000 lawns for 1 month to help, it would be public pollinators, be a good thing.
Yeah, I have no objection. I mean, what is your intention for what they're participating in? Like, they get a sign, right, if they sign up?
Oh, they get a sign when they sign up.
They're gonna get 1,000 sign, if you have 1,000 signups?
Well, and imagine signups.
Sure.
I think we're going to get in between 100 and 150 signups. I would guess if I had to pick about 110, maybe 120. We have always had a few extra signs left over. So we'll buy 100 signs this year. And then I've probably got 50 signs in my attic, which my wife would love if they weren't there.
She keeps the sign for a year.
And that is what happens a lot. So like at some point, we'll probably, if this continues, and if we get to it, it's going to get to the point where the vast majority of people are going to have kept their signs. And we ask them to keep their signs and use it for next year. But we have $600 in the budget, in the EAC budget, which you graciously approved previously. And there's a sale going on right now with Signs on the Cheap, which is our preferred vendor.
And do the people, when they sign up, do they have to agree to the terms? Like I know you're supposed to still do a little trail next to the sidewalk, right? You're supposed to like agree to those things.
Yes, there's a Google form which lays out the rules. And the rules are, if you have a strip in between your sidewalk and the curb, you have to mow that strip, and you have to mow a strip inside your sidewalk so that it's obvious that you're doing this on purpose. You have to have a sign. And the first Sunday, second Sunday, because this year, the way the calendar falls, we give them till the 9th of the month to return it to pre-May length.
Staff, do you have any comments? Any issues with no mow May?
No, in fact, I was actually gonna make the suggestion, like, if we were gonna increase it to 150 this year or to 200 or whatever it is, like, just remove the cap, because it doesn't seem like you ever max out, and you have to come back every year and ask for the increase, so it seems to take care of itself. You mentioned that there was only ever really the one complaint.
Yeah.
And there's a backstory to that, like there always is, so. Yeah, most of the people who participate, they want to do the right thing and they abide by the rules.
Right. And when you fill out that form, it completes a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is available to the township so that if anybody gets a call, they have a list that they can go and check, and it simplifies everything.
Well, I think it sounds reasonable to remove the cap. It's clearly a marketing impediment for you all, and I don't think there's even a need to continue to come back and make this request. Did we try to institutionalize that last year, where just every year be more of marketing on our part to? Well, sure. All right.
We're already.
I participated.
We had some
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
Well,
Somebody literally
I
put paint June on it.
I do have a. Is here, and while you're here, my ground lawn? Are people on that? Is
Yeah.
it?
Pick up the lot, not what it is.
Gonna convert to a clover lawn?
That was
That's-
main reasons for the existence of the EAC is to educate people. And so we wanted to understand what people wanted to be educated on. And so we're going to be doing a workshop on lawn alternatives coming up soon.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for
One
coming
que-
and making that
One
request.
question, just
Sure.
out of personal curiosity, I guess. People that participate in OMA, when June comes around and grass is too high for their lawnmowers and so, what do people typically do?
So I have an Ego battery powered mower. And you know how you cut a strip in your lawn, then you line up your wheel and you cut another strip so you don't miss anything. I just do half.
Narrow strip.
It's a narrower strip and I compost it all. So, I mean, no mow May is like my big composting time of the
Your
year.
first cut might have to be like the highest setting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's another one of the things that we suggest, and it's actually for rainwater management. The higher people's grass is, the more water absorbs into their lawn, which benefits all of us. And also helps, like taller grass is going to do better in a drought. Which not everybody understands. So there's a whole number of purposes. And also next month, I'm coming back to talk about naturalized landscape ordinance, just as a preview to leave you on the edge of your seat.
I can't wait.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. All right, thank you for that. Our next topic that folks are here for is the skate park presentation. For the commissioners, there's this little blurb on it in tab D, third page, if you want to reference it. I would say, Art, do you want to speak or do you want us? Rob, our Park and Rec liaison, give us a summary first.
Since I'm here, I would just like to
Let's
even.
go.
So I'm
Art,
a neighbor. Those skate park would. I also border on the rec center also.
He's also our chair.
And so, I mean, and I'll use the term traffic, but I mean, not only cars, but I mean, people and things happening. And, there's the soccer field and everything that happens there. There's the new rec center, which will have additional thing. And the skate park, I think it just becomes too much traffic in that area. And you could say, and I say traffic, I mean, people. And there's this frame that somehow the neighbors and
I'm on comments that we were.
the rest of the comments.
He's
Murphy, so in there.
Yeah, no, she. Report on those public. To the advertised agenda for this meeting. What I was referring to.
I see. And what I also wanted to mention was that a lot happens there. Between working and the college and side a lot. Wife and I took the time to and so, I mean, it's a kiddie playground. You're not going to really have a lot of boys still have on a regular basis supposedly closed, but how do you, it's wide open, loud, and broken bottles and literally a little patch of woods on it. They're facing our house. And older person. video, have, and it's like, so now, yes, I did. Think, I just called the police, but this, and sometimes I see the police parked in the Rex over. I'll make sure I go towards the front. So there's back there and back, but by the time he drives his car around with the spotlight, everybody goes. So this little kiddie happened with the skate park right there. And, again, I'm all in favor of the rec. It's good for the community. Also. And I'm just saying, some of us neighbors that Rob.
So. Asking only, and I can't really say whether it was equal numbers, but there was large numbers of students who were extreme, bragging how the build community and their has been kind of connected. So they made convincing argument for the need for a skate park. The neighbors make a very convincing argument for that location being kind of problematic. And the advisory committee, asked us to evaluate partly the list fundraise plan. So that was saying, okay, I don't really know how to go. And I just don't know why we can't go out and sure. Township.
We have the purview. I know that I don't think there was any obvious perfect location. It didn't have these same issues.
The committee was to comment on one skate park, specific skate park association was and at Laurel Beach. Importantly, whether skate be prioritized anywhere in so that we could have a how to address township at all. That topic was presented in a Rob that you saw on Wednesday, right? Art pretty much a replica of the same meeting from November. What? November, and it was tabled. You want to understand? It was tabled, and then the Park and Rec Committee was going to opine on those two matters. Their opinion resulted in a 4-vote. Yes, commissioners should consider that location, 2 against, 1 abstention. And I believe the abstention is essentially that it's not really within our, in that individual's purview to say, in her opinion. I think that doesn't quite answer those 2 notations, but it does, you could infer that at least that the Park and Rec Committee has an interest in skate. I think I can infer from both for and members of the community have posited that they're not against skate park facilities in general, like the idea. It should be somewhere, but this site is not prime for that because it's so close to neighbors. And all the number of things that we've heard, I think members here have heard, and frankly can probably infer just from the restrictions of that site and how close it is. We already know going through the rec center experience, it's a small general site. So that's just the lay of the land. And then in the process, there have been conversations in the past about doing skate somewhere else in the township. Why are we locked in, as Rob just said, to this particular site? And I think I was just going to say, and the size, right? Exactly. I don't think the answer is.
Would be needed.
Well, that's the thing is, what's needed is different in different places. So sometimes there are these more kind of almost informal ones that people really enjoy, where the structures just sit, like there's one in Roxborough where they have a bunch of structures that are in the formal basketball, tennis court. And it's really popular, heavily used. And that doesn't have the bowl or anything. It's a different.
How big is it? How, is it one tennis court or two tennis courts?
I'm not sure. I've only watched the YouTube video of it, but, so that's like one approach, is like this DIY, where you have structures that are sitting on the ground. Then you have the bowl one, which is what they're proposing, which is, the Cadillac, the skate park.
Probably larger than room here, ultimately.
Do we know, I mean, in terms of what the skate park association is requesting, do we have any sense of what kind of square footage we're talking about?
There's numbers.
in their presentation.
It's in their presentation, but just for, if you've been to Laurel Beach, the concept would be that in its present configuration, notwithstanding the rec center renovations or construction, basically the same footprint as that playground that's over there, informally known as Dinosaur Park, for those who know, and in Laurel Beach, it would be a similar footprint adjacent to it. And they said that's a fairly small size skate park. I think not to dodge the exact specifics, I think neither here nor there, because at least from my view, I just think it's a little tight for the neighborhood to have the scope that they requested there. However, from my view, that doesn't mean that there isn't something less that could be incorporated to the rec center program out that way. Because I think the arguments made about providing a third space for those of skating age range is really valuable to the community. I think the argument made that it should be near a place where people frequent, like a rec center, is a good thing as opposed to somewhere else. That they keep then what is reasonable for that space and the feedback that opinion. I mean, I don't want to foreclose the rated.
The idea of pocket parks and whether they think is it all or nothing? It's like, no, it's no.
And for what it's worth, I think these individuals have been fundraising just about, or at least considered fundraising. They want it to happen. And part of it is just the novice nature of those who don't know how to lobby a group like ourselves. What do we do? And they realize, oh my goodness, the rec center's coming online soon. We got to talk about that. So, because what they really would like to do is have a dedicated spot in partnership with the township and be able to take the grant writing aspects off of our plates and do the private fundraising that they wish to have. I don't disagree, though, that the better thing may be for us to kind of opine on whether we wish to have skating anywhere in the township, the function, to frenzy, not prime yet to have that kind of, because I think saw at the meetings and what I've seen at these meetings, who is opposed to the skate concept at Laurel Beach, only sees this giant piece plop down, right? In some people's misunderstanding, or even adjacent to it. And that feels very, having not had even the conversation by the committee. So I think it's it at all, but is defer to take whatsoever. Meanwhile, we have a private group engaging with us the topic and layers and ability to try to connect those pieces that even if all and find a design that works for everyone. Too much money. Many other ways this can go. So just going to lay the land and hear my fellow commissioners' thoughts on it.
It would be a great thing. And willing to help try to find that works. If we neighbors who live there, I mean, whole movement where there emerged should be away from homes. That's not a nuisance for those people. So I didn't hear that. There's groups like, what are the best practices? Thrive, where they accept.
People complain. They're not behind. It's invisible, so.
But a conflicting almost criteria for a spot in the township we've previously discussed at Walnut is, and just so you know, we have apps in this third space for an all wheels. Other conflict there. One benefit is that well, and real business concerns about proximity can the it accessible to the rec center, of course, are not there. The place you have to drive.
That corner of Orland, if you're living constituents, which is somewhere you want to, because for young kids
in a park like that, you're have kids of all ages who's going to be on that, you know, in that middle, somewhat older, someone who's in that 10 to range who, but don't have, you know, could use another space to enjoy them. Park space for all ages in that way. Right.
Still, there in high school, at a skateboard with them at the meeting.
I'm gonna skate, I don't want my parents anywhere.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Again, you know, as you know, that I like, find that Walnut could be the argument that is frequent is, but the reality, sure how many places A to point that isn't run into that most likely you are being someplace or, and that seems more plausible to me than one that we could this pathway that's it's of a smaller scoped items in various pocket parks, like Rob said.
Yeah.
So
Next steps look like, is that discussed at the meeting?
No.
Yeah, I was just my the question the can recommend these and I think unless we are for sure going to go back to Laurel Beach, I don't think it's wise on our part to just let's all meet again until we have although I also don't want to foreclose investing a good amount of money. People are going to be spending time. It's a known the tenants that we promoted in that was great connectivity. The site, the physical site, beach, knowing that this area is that we're talking about is a bridge, and we know we're going to be investing in making that space nice. If there's a world in which you can fit any small amount of third space for that swoop that people can skate as on a pathway alongside the rec center. Great. Is it going to be the Cadillac? I mean, I just don't think it's a Cadillac, but I don't want to foreclose ourselves from that concept. If we come across in conversation something that could work, that's just my only concern about saying something more binary. Sure, come on up, please.
Can we get your name and where you live?
Sure.
Jeff?
The park there. And just to a couple of points you were making, I think my neighbor spoke eloquently about just how, we feel like we're already shouldering our fair share of the burden of recreational space in the township, and we're happy to do it, but more feels like more. But to the couple of points you made, one is that I used to live in Ardmore, and I played a lot of basketball on a public basketball court that was right next to a small child's playground. And I always marveled that there was never any kids on the playground. And then when I moved in right across from the park, I realized it was because we were there, right? This was the 80s. We had the boom boxes. We were playing basketball. We indulged in colorful language, and so it was just unpleasant for parents to have their kids there when we were there. When we weren't there, when the basketball court was empty, there were kids on the playground. So the idea of a dual use space is fraught in some ways because it's completely different, ages. And the other piece is that it was brought up that, the group would like to find a place so that they can start fundraising. And I would really like to encourage you not to do that because it just feels dishonest. Like one or the other group is going to feel like they were misled, right? Because the investors are going to say, well, you told us this spot, or the neighbors are going to say, well, you said you were going to look for another spot. So I would really encourage you, if you don't feel like you have the right spot yet, just say we don't have the right spot rather than choosing a spot, and so they can fundraise.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That was their recommendation. It wasn't ours.
Right. I agree. I just wanted to, so.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, falling back on the query that was really before them included, do we as a township prioritize skating at all? Because how could we even take that next step if maybe the answer would have been no, which is totally plausible by the Park and Rec Committee. We've, having sat there for the past 4 years, all sorts of reasons why that could have been plausible, because there's not enough of an audience, maybe because it's too loud. We just don't have the land, which comes up a lot at Parks and Rec. And Rob took the heat on a really big first one to host, but so that's plausible. It seems to me that the answer by the Park and Rec Committee, which is not Bible by any means, it's just an indication for us, is that they would like it. I think it sounds to me that my fellow board members are interested in it, but still have a lot of questions about where it could even land. Even our cursory discussion about Walnut is very cursory. Although we needn't be shy that at some point we did talk about that third corner as reserved for the exploration of an idea park. But I think, again, more to.
Suzie, what could be the next step? Not, that might location conversations, but is not specific to any particular township location yet, but just kind of, this idea about, are they married to the yeah, 5%, whatever, is old, versus,
Cadillac
yeah,
version.
right, versus some of these smaller kind of DIY, things that we see in other locations.
I think we have not been primed to even consider that until this very moment, and I'm asking you all to also suggest any next steps.
Or would we have to, get the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to talk with the skate park association at the same time, or would we do it without them? What would be the best? What would be the-
Mike, do you have a suggestion before we?
Well, I kind of think that they are their wits end in terms of a location, they're asking us to help. Say, where is the location possible?
But we don't know what their needs are. I wouldn't even know where to begin to suggest the
They,
location.
which they, the association or the.
Well, we could quickly come up with, all right, here are some possible locations. And take that to them and say, the big thing doesn't work here. Smaller thing could work here. Is that of interest?
Right, I just don't want to spit Mills looking for a location if I knew that the committee would say, oh no, we only are interested in the Cadillac version.
Well, I think-
Then that's a specific look, like location wise versus, oh, maybe we're open to like a smaller, DIY situation, that those could be long.
But might I also suggest that we take away the existence of an association that has dollars at all, and just like among us, decide, is this where we'd like to invest our time, energy, and resources in general for this community? I think that's important.
I'd like to answer both of your questions.
Great.
Which I wanna do first. But yours, my answer is yes. One of the things some of the young people spoke at the other night, including Asher, Springfield graduate who came back, spoke eloquently about how popular non-team sports are with kids, and they really feel underserved. And I think in one of the things presentation, we have X amount of soccer fields, we have X amount of baseball fields, we have X amount of basketball courts, all this stuff, and there's not really even one alternative non-team sport focused facility.
Non-scheduled as well.
And non-scheduled, right? If you look at like nationwide, the amount of kids who skate versus the amount of kids who actually play organized sports, like, it's really crazy to know. So to me, I am definitely on board with seeing if we can help provide a facility for that type of thing. And your answer, I think it's a very simple one. Let's just go back to the leaders of the thing and ask them.
Yeah.
Would you be open to a smaller scale?
Yeah, that's my
Without the
point.
big.
What's the next step in
Yeah.
that
My
conversation?
question is, if we have a meeting with the skate park association, do we need to invite the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to the same meeting? How does it work?
Right now, I'm saying, we don't have a meeting.
Just ask.
Just asking what they consider. the
Well,
smaller
and,
type.
but then I think I would consider, let's say this group of individuals, let's say there's 5 of them, I don't know how many there are, 5 adults, say, nope, this or nothing. It sounds to me still that our conversation still needs to be had here that, well, regardless of whether you exist, sounds like we still want something. And we need some time to digest what scale, scope, and size, physical and financial, and where. Again, one kind of informs the other, but we have to at least start by cracking the egg open to see, which I'm open to. I just want to be sure that that's a consensus from everyone. Sure.
Chris Weth, Orland. Is there a written requirements list and is there a written desirements list by those who are interested?
From the committee, you mean from the skate
From
committee?
those who are association.
Association partner.
They put together like a schematic of what they were hoping to do. So I think this was aspirational as to what they would like to see built. And what they were thinking about building was pretty expansive and not inexpensive.
The pictorial,
What's
not, the pictorial, not narrative.
Yeah,
What-
yeah, they had diagrams of everything that they were hoping.
Oh.
I mean, I grew up skateboarding and still occasionally skateboard. I don't know what these days, but but I need, I, this group of individuals really was hoping for. I think if we look try in this township that, meets some of the criteria we're seeking. Is visible so that, you don't have, perhaps drinking, perhaps beer or whatever, where it's not at all times. And then we see, and it may not be, like, it may not have every, but I mean, one of the, the Love Park down in Center City for the longest time. Skate park. It was just for everybody to cry, but it was around on real fast. It was in like for park and Philly. So I would love to see us pursue it, try to find some, see what's possible. I would imagine that the association skate park, it's like, if there's some that is going to be, it's going to work for the township, it'll be great. It'll be great to have a place for kids to be able to go.
Just
Brandon, I agree that we don't like the conversation doesn't need to start, like, doesn't need to end with what they wish list. Like you said, we might say, okay, well, that's not a possibility. We're going to invest. But they have time and energy into the project.
here, we have know if Mr. Will Rothroff is in the room. Carry on this conversation, or do you want to do that? All right, let's wrap this up and then we'll do that if that's okay with you. Please come to the mic. I want to also, while she's walking up, share that it's important to note that this was not on our agenda as a topic item, so we may have to replicate this conversation. I just wanted to be sure, obviously it was salient for individuals who went to the meeting last week, and process-wise, typically we don't actually get actions from that sometimes don't happen until the following month just because of the proximity to this, oftentimes I should say, proximity to this meeting, it doesn't quite hit the agenda. But also we'd have to put the item on the agenda, and I'm not sure that was ripe either. As you can hear, the item would be at this point, but that we do Park and Rec Committee. We understand the process is not intended as if any conversation was not intended. Out.
If I may,
Yes.
being had right now because to you remotely in advance of this meeting, which Mr. Walters is an adjacent neighbor, and addressed the board on the subject. So that's why the conversation's happening. Was going to take action on, or was going to have an extended advertised agenda materials provided to all the board members, some of whom are all to this point.
Thank you.
Hi, I live right on Gate community that from 5 kids, and we all use the park, right? The other night, so I apologize. I think that there's an extensive email chain is flooding runoff from to people's basements and backyards. A huge concern for them. We love our park. We love the trees. Our kids come. The summer camps there. All my kids go to the little summer. They sit under the very well. Soccer. There's lacrosse. My daughter and needs solid surfaces and user. So for me, having a was always a million times we spoke, and she always assured me for being. So I'm hope we'll have compliance and a thoughtfulness about solid surfaces for my daughter, but many people that navigate the world in a different way. One of our other concerns was about bathrooms. So right now, the park at nighttime on the weekends, kids do hang out there. And you can see it, it's evident in the mornings when you go with your kids. There's trash. Is there. And it does smell like pee. It does, right? And for boys, that's one thing. But like if we have a park that's widely used, which I think we should have a skate park. I was a Love Park girly. I hung out there a million nights. We did all kinds of very illegal activities there. So that is a concern, right? But do we have I have teenagers. Do they need some place to hang out? Should we invest in them having another place to hang out? Should we invest in them skateboarding in the community? I think yes. Why not? They deserve a place to hang out as much as anyone that plays baseball or whatever, right? What about Elephant Playground? There's a huge patch of land, right, from the tennis court to the playground that's just like an open space that's not used. Could there be like some sort of ramp and maybe a little stumpery kind of situation? There's medical offices there. They're completely empty on the weekends. There's tons of parking. I don't know. That's a spot that could panic. The other thing is the skate park portion of the to the fields, like right of large plantings around it. A little more shady. I don't know. Those are all things
I
that the
think these
neighbor
are points, and I think I don't know if you
That's
walked
all.
in at the tail end when we were talking about the side. Their side alleged to be exactly the same footprint essentially as the play area at the dinosaur park area.
Yeah.
And just replicate it adjacent to it, just for your reference.
Yeah.
But that earlier in the sense that I think it's a little tight to fit all of that regardless.
It's
So
widely used, right?
yeah, and I think I don't think any of those options. I think I guess I'm trying to say is we understand that neighbors don't really propose. I think that's pretty. I think what scope, size, and even facility is that they propose. And it could chime in otherwise. The idea of offering a space for people of that age group that can be skated upon or wheels can be used on there sounds appealing, and we just need to investigate size, options, naturally costs.
Could I say one other thing?
Sure.
We have a beautiful park on Mermaid Lane, right? It's and on a pathway that goes around it. Their cars and trying to my daughter with a cane so right, older people with a walkway there that has like but if you have kids around that, could we some speed bumps, a sidewalk,
You can consider it. We've talked about the intersection a number of times in the
It's-
past 6 months.
It is so used and we love it. I walk down to it. It's not accessible with my special needs daughter.
Right.
And as multiple times a day, I know to pop out in between those cars, but for somebody else that doesn't know that, scary to be crossing there. That's all I have to say, but thank you so much for
Thanks,
letting me
Ginger.
say anything.
Um,
Couple of minutes, I'll make it a little bit.
I also think that could tie into a larger discussion of sidewalks.
Yes.
So one thing I wanted to say was, as far as like the ball fields and stuff, I'll call them multi-use, even for like someone who's not into team sports. Like the soccer field, I often go running there, and you know, the benches, you can do push-ups or dips, or, and the incline is perfect for some other exercising. So there's a ball field or soccer field, it has multi-uses for people who are not into team sports. That's one thing. The next thing I wanted to say was, once this large concrete skate park is there, it's not moving. I hear so many times people say, oh, it won't be that bad. Well, once it's in, it's in. Because I don't know how expensive it would be if it was decided later on to remove it. But what Rob was suggesting is something more reasonable that could be. I just want to mention too, and you know, I know Rob and is new, but the frustration that a lot of the neighbors who live around the park were feeling is we keep going to these presentations and we keep waiting for our chance to talk. And I thought in January, we were going to get our chance to talk, and the meeting was canceled. Things happen. Maybe it was the snow, I forget. Chance. And we sat there for, I don't know, there's things that we just disingenuous. Quick. It was said that the 45 minutes. So one of our neighbors parks within 13 minutes. You know, we hear this stuff. And then the park, the think is keep the park clean. Get my son to clean. I don't see that. The thing I wanted to say was, your name was Ginger?
Yeah.
Help the dinosaur park accessible to your daughter. Contact information. Way to make that happen.
That's incoming.
Increasingly difficult to find places to stay her. And it would be great if you could just walk to the playground or something like that. Go on a plane.
Yeah, and it's probably just that spot from the sidewalk.
Update on.
ADA swing that is gonna be installed shortly at that location. But to your point, you know, the mulch that's there, the playground mulch, I mean, it's a safety surface, but it's not the most friendly for those with special needs.
And fair enough that it's been stalled as we wait to put a shovel in the ground on the rec center site, because clearly we'd want to incorporate an update holistically for the whole site, for the
Sure.
benefit of the entire neighborhood, as
Absolutely.
Art knows. So I
Yeah.
think that's forthcoming and changes are coming, and not to take for granted that considering things like stormwater and other concerns, shade, that's all going to be accounted for, I think, in the rec center. Sure. Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Well, I think we were talking about a next step that's going to be helpful. Anyone else have a comment on it for now? I think we probably need to think what those next steps are among us, perhaps with staff. Perhaps to call up the association folks and just say, for you,
Mike and Jim, and just
just
brainstorm.
bring. So that it's going to be on an agenda, forthwith. It just will depend on what the outcome of those conversations look like, at what point that will need to come before residents, wheresoever we land on those topics. So I want to emphasize that all of those were received by that committee. I think you didn't necessarily say them. If you've spoken with us, I think you can surmise we can neighbor, and those aren't out of sight or out of mind.
Has received all individually, so Jim has the total of the letters.
And if there's something that hasn't been mentioned that you feel like needs, please continue. Sure. I still think there, before we get to a, now we know what it looks like on that topic. All right. Well, I think that brings us to our interview. We have an interviewee for the Historical Commission membership. The resume is on tab C. Please come forward, and thank you so much for your patience. After this interview, then we will go right into the agenda book. So there is presently a vacancy as an alternate member of the Historical Commission, upon which I am newly sitting. So welcome. Seems like you have a lot of great background for this. So I will just say it's very informal. I know it's kind of weird to do it in front of a crowd, but we're not going to go down the line or anything. Why don't you introduce yourself, why you're interested, and then we'll ask questions as needed. Thank you all.
Sure. Thank you, and nice to be with all of you this evening. My name is Will Ruthroff. I live in Flowertown. It's actually my second stint of residency in the township. I lived here and moved away for a while, and I'm very, very glad to be back. I applied for the alternate member position on the Historical Commission because I believe in preserving historically significant assets. I love history. I love the fact that we live in a historical area and benefit from diverse architecture, and would love to be involved in that process. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about anything else.
Great. Anyone?
Start with that. I have a question. I know that your business now is real estate investment in Northwest Pillars from Chestnut Hill to. Have you been in any projects that have like really interesting sort of historical features?
Yeah, actually, I'm in almost to terms on a project that is protected by a different historical preservation initiative. In fact, going through that process is one of the things that made me interested in this, because I've come across some other ways that certain municipalities are looking at preservation. This particular, I think it's a little bit different than how Springfield has looked at it so far. But I have gone through that process with that one particular asset, but that's the only sort of example I've had so far.
Is there any specific significance to that asset? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, it's 100 years old, and it was designated because of its architectural character being, I mean, it met a number of, I think, 4 out of 8 criteria on a list of this particular municipality, but it was basically because it was historically significant. I think it stemmed from another nearby neighborhood that had taken down a number of community, sort of took note of that and wanted to ensure that, I think some of those buildings were historically significant, and they sought to protect. This was on a list of about 40 buildings in total. Yeah.
So in that particular instance, and we don't have to talk about that property exclusively, but was this something that the municipality said, congratulations on your purchase of this property? You're deemed historically significant, and now you have X, Y, and Z that you must comply with? Or was this like a voluntary listing?
This was compulsory. It was essentially a designation of 40 buildings that were deemed historically significant, and there was I guess an ordinance would be the term that was passed to protect those buildings indefinitely. So it was not an opt-in type of scenario.
has that made it difficult for you as somebody that's either tried to renovate or, I guess like transfer?
Yeah, has not made it difficult for me. I mean, I think that was part of the other aspect of the role. I think I could lend and sort of, and I tend to look at buildings through an investor lens right now. And so I think I could sort of provide that perspective. For me, it's not a challenge in this particular case. Doesn't mean that I don't think it could be in other cases.
Because some of the things we've heard in the past is that it makes it harder for somebody to insure the building. Because of the cost to replicate, it's going to be significantly higher.
Yeah.
So there's some of the things that have led people to not voluntarily list their property because they're concerned about those impacts.
Yeah, that certainly makes a lot of sense.
If I'm honest, I don't have a ton of questions. I'm just grateful that anyone in our community wants to volunteer. And again, I've said it many times, but I'll say it again, just really grateful to have just the human capital in town to offer your expertise, especially in real estate on the topic of historical preservation. Just the timeliness that we can match folks who have an interest in a topic with the opportunity. I think we're just really grateful for that in general. And so I think we will soon let you know, right, what the next
You're
step
good with
is.
the meetings, they're on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
6 o'clock. And they're limited to an hour because our staff liaison and commissioner liaison they're back to back with the planning commission.
Which you might have an interest in hanging around for, if you'd like.
No, that timing works fine. Yeah. Great.
Wonderful.
I would say, I just like the fact that, your business involves, making money while also respecting vintage housing. So finding that solution that brings those two things together, so many of the things that we do around here, when you can make it fiscally make sense while also doing the thing that everybody hopes to do. It makes a lot of stuff up. I volunteer with the liaison with the Environmental Advisory Commission, and so much of the stuff that they do, it's also saved the township money. And put those two things together, it's great.
That's great. Yeah.
Will, you have any questions for us?
No, I appreciate all of your time and commitment to being on the commission. Thanks.
Thanks. Do you have an opinion on skate parks? No, just
What's that?
kidding.
Yeah. No, that was interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, love park.
Do you have an opinion on the historical skate parks, like Love Park?
Not yet.
Thank you so much, Will. Look forward to hearing from you. All right. Unless there are any other public comments, I think that concludes our public comment period, and we can move right into the agenda, although the first time to quickly before we agenda item you want to address in your committee reports, just kind of fly by and be sure we hear from everyone in their various committees that you attended last month. Any updates that are worth sharing? Maybe we'll start with Rob, since I think the bulk of it was covered.
Take it up.
We're all skate parked out.
Baseball will release my time.
All right, Matt.
I have not been to any public safety stuff yet. Happy to give an update with that. We can go together if you'd like. You're all frankly wrong. We both attended Shade Tree together last week.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, I guess it's sort of a planning time in the winter months for Shade Tree, but it was good to kind of get my feet wet and meet the folks that are there. In terms of specific initiatives, is there anything you thought was relevant, Beth?
Yeah, just some follow-up on things that they had been, we didn't meet in December, so it was a little bit of a review, meeting in January and getting organized for the spring. Talked about maybe having Ian attend a meeting, Ian Hammer, so that we could do some nice collaboration between Public Works and Shade Tree in terms of them supporting our efforts, supporting their efforts. They had some conversation about spring programming around mulch days, and also a continuance of an earlier, like the 2025 initiative around choosing a park, have one park to focus on per season, or into the spring and the summer, and doing some spring planting there. So that that came out of our park needs assessment. And also maybe having some greater collaboration with other groups so that we are, and we were using Montgomery as kind of an example in that conversation, like they're doing some things at Montgomery Park. So making sure that we're not replicating efforts and that we are working efficiently with the other groups in the township.
Great. Thank you, Shade Tree.
When she first brought up Mermaid, I thought she was going to suggest that as the skateboard.
And we've got an arboretum.
Zoning, hearing that happened in January, heard one case. And that was the case of the industrial property behind Opus Pickleball. Where it was a undefined use that they were looking for approval on. If you recall, it was right for storage of like vintage cars and that kind of thing. So that hearing went, they approved the use. It was clear that it would be a less dense, less onerous use than some things that would by right be allowed to go there. So they did come back and approve that. So that was it.
All right, thanks. Brendan?
The EAC meeting for this month was canceled. I think it was weather and then also some challenges for a few people to get there. So there, wasn't any fresh stuff there, but, we had, OKB started the open space committee. And so, there is some genesis going on there as people start to get some ideas together. And I think, with a big focus on Carson Valley property and trying to see what possibilities there could be there to, to help preserve that property. And there are a lot of different groups that also share those concerns. So I think trying to coordinate efforts and see what we can do. And Mike has been very helpful with some additional information just around that so that everybody can get the lay on that.
Great. I was with Historical Commission. It was really a resetting the table for them because of our last conversations on not quite yet funding their requests. I think some of them feel like there's really nowhere else to go. And I felt bad to have to continue to kind of beat the same dead horse about what's transpired in the past 5 years. But coming new to the scene, I think was important to get that lay of the land, that they really feel like their next step is still the list. Yeah, the inventory. I'm still torn about it in the same vein as we discussed last month, and that I'm not sure where the list will go, and even out of that conversation last month. And so hopeful to see if there's other adjustments, or even frankly, maybe having to sit down and with some of the members who are maybe more in tune with the present list and craft some direction. Otherwise, they're spinning their wheels a bit with the desire to be productive. And I think that's just a chicken or egg. There's no update except for, and I myself am not sure. I'm confused. The Planning Commission the day was the property a presentation made with beautiful renderings and pictures, which you may have seen. And if you haven't, I'm sure you can see them. A large piece that actually abuts veterans. And so that won't come before us properly until next month, I believe. But the Planning Commission did vote to give both preliminary and final approval. And then that joined me as vice liaison. Anything else you want to add or update? All right, fabulous. Relatedly, that's our first topic in the book is Planning Commission and reappointing 2 existing members. The first topic being an executive, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
First, A is an executive. So B, the Planning Commission. I reached out to Amanda Helwig, and Mark Penical reached out to Mr. Devine, and they are both interested in getting reappointed to the commission. And that's that. And then we've met with our candidate for tab C. And then that brings us right to the manager's report, which will also have a moment for Carson. I think, right?
Yeah.
All
briefly.
right.
So.
Take it away, Mike.
I can go through this. So last month we talked about, adopting a resolution to honor Ed Fox for his time on the zoning hearing board, over 2 decades. He's unfortunately not able to attend in February, but he is able and interested to attend in March, so we'll punt that to next month. Bridge Community Church, is the, congregation that has purchased the former St. Philip in the Fields Church on Lorraine Avenue. We met as a staff with representatives from the church on the 22nd of January to talk about their interest in subdividing the former parsonage off from that property. It's kind of a pie-shaped lot. It's actually like a reverse pie-shaped lot. In order to do that, they're going to run up against a side yard variance for the parsonage. So they actually have in front of you this month a zoning petition to seek relief for that. Their plan is when they sell the parsonage, because apparently the thought nowadays is the pastor doesn't want to necessarily live right next to the church, wants a little bit of separation, and they could use the money to put back into the property. So they're going to sell
Just because it's been there for a while?
looks like it needs some work. It's been vacant for quite some time.
Yeah, I think they did say they're not even using it at the moment, so it needs
No.
that much work.
Got ivy and everything growing all over it, so there's a lot of deferred maintenance there. They're not using it at present. They did a lot of renovations in there.
Yeah, I know they
It
had a
looks like they
dumpster.
took all the pews out and instead of lined up with an aisle, like something where like the altar is going to be kind of surrounded around it. At least that's.
Oh, and I guess I asked that. You essentially there's based on the land and on that property at all. 'Cause just that one property.
No, it's just gonna subdivide off enough land with the house on it already to sell that off.
Okay.
And then the church, and they have, I guess it was sort of like an office type building that they have. They haven't really figured out what they're gonna do with that yet. But at various times over the years, I think that's been used for like classroom, like Bible school type things. So we'll see what they end up doing with that in the
We
future.
could do
Used to be a polling place as well.
Was it?
Yeah, for 6-2.
would be a good spot for housing pets, housing animals.
You want to do that.
Yes.
Owners. Municipal campus solar project. So, later on tonight, you'll talk about, adopting a resolution authorizing a grant application for the Montgomery 2040 implementation grant program. We're asking for $250,000 to help offset the $629,000 gross cost of the project. As you're aware, we're pursuing the Inflation Reduction Act rebate that would be available through that and would reduce that cost. So if we can get the grant money, that would even make it a better project. Recreation Center, we're meeting bi-weekly with the architects and the construction managers. Tim Woodrow is serving as the civil engineer, and we have the Wilson Engineering folks listening in as well. They're looking at the project from a sustainability / energy conservation viewpoint. So we think the floor plan for the building is pretty much set. You've seen that in the past. It's been put up there. We looked at this a few months ago. Maybe a couple tweaks here and there with the floor plan. They plan on having exterior renderings to us the next time we meet. And if not, the next time it'll probably be the meeting after that. And then at that point, we're going to get the rec center advisory committee together in one of their regular meetings to share the renderings and the floor plan all over again and see what people have to say about it. In the meantime, Jim has not seen the Doylestown Township Recreation Center, which our building is going to very closely resemble. So he's made arrangements to go up and meet with their director and the staff that have been living in the building now for the last like 5 or 6 months, and see if they have any feedback. You know, what would you do different? Would you want this to be bigger? Would you want this to be smaller? Are you using this feature? Are you not using this feature? So it's all coming together. Carson Valley, the big story on Carson Valley is we were informed this month that an agreement of sale has been executed for the schoolhouse property on Wissahickon Avenue. They did not indicate who the buyer was, but the buyer apparently is an operator of other childhood education facilities. So the assumption is that it's going to continue to be used in that fashion. On the larger campus, they're doing some repairs and cleaning out of buildings that has been ongoing for quite some time now. And in the meantime, there was a large windstorm that came through about a month or two ago, took down some trees and took down power lines that were serving 2 of the cottages. So they've been without power for some time. They have a plan to restore power to both of them, but they have to get PICO to sign off on it. So a little bit of a delay in there. They also contacted me earlier this month about the barns on Bethlehem Pike there. There's a hole in one of the roofs that was pointed out to us from one of the neighbors that we made them aware of. They haven't been used in quite some time. They actually looked into what's it going to take to repair these things, and without opening up a can of worms and a lot of cost, I think they're basically going to put some tarps on the roofs to try and keep rainwater from getting in them, maybe plywood over some of the windows to keep people from breaking into them. But they're not going to do anything real extensive with those. So that's where they are with that.
There's the offices on that, okay?
So there's the administration building on Bethlehem Pike, and then where the Christmas trees used to get sold, there's 2 barns over there.
Those seem like they would be kind of historical significance,
Buildings in this one town. Property at some point. So, why don't you just kind of like stable pivoted, and they said, all right, you're right, it's probably cheaper for us to just do that anyway. So that's the direction they're going. And I am on then the Historical Society, not the commission, reached out some time ago and wanted to know if they could photo document the buildings. And they're aware of their request, and we're trying to work that out to get them in there. So
We were receptive to it.
yeah, they weren't not receptive, but they're worried about liability. The buildings as they are now, there's just a lot of stuff in them that they have to clean out. And moving on the Walnut Avenue Trail, Tim talked to you about that. We think we're in a better spot now to try and get a trail easement from PennDOT over that wetland mitigation site. Good news is that environmental covenant was never reported, or it does not appear to have been reported, which would kind of complicate things there. Cisco Park Bridge, he also talked to you about that. Next item is executive. Andy can talk to you about that. The zoning hearing. Skate park, we've spent a lot of time talking about that already. And then a couple personnel updates. So we made a couple of hires this month. So Jenna Stark is going to be our new community relations and media specialist. Jenna actually works at Philadelphia Zoo right now.
As
with the
a
animals.
zoologist.
As a zoologist.
That's cool.
Yeah, but she, apparently that's a tough lifestyle, and you don't get a whole lot of time off. The animals will get fed every day, and like holidays, weekends, like she doesn't have a whole lot of time off. So she's looking to make a switch. There's an example right there. She's going to start on February 23rd, and she'll take over for Alex. Alex is moving to the police department. Laura D'Angelo has been hired for the administrative assistant position in the community development department. That's a position that was vacated when Robin Logan retired after 32 years of service. So we lost some institutional memory there. Laura is actually a teacher at the Meadowbrook Academy, Meadowbrook School, and she's looking to make a career change. Teaching's not what it used to be, she said. So And then we made 2 hires in the library. They're both part-time library assistants. That are just filling vacancies that occurred when, sadly, one of our part-timers passed away, in October. And, another one, good for her, got full-time employment with Merck and Company. So we had those 2 positions. And then, over in the Public Works Department, Ezra Hallman, who is one of our newest employees, is posted for and is going to be reassigned to the Highway Department, which is going to create a second vacancy as a recycle laborer. We've been making do with seasonal employees, through the winter, fall and winter. We did make a hire, but the job proved to be a little bit too difficult for the individual, so he declined to stay on, and I think his words were, "Sorry, I can't do this anymore." But Ezra's been hanging in there, but Ezra's gonna move over to Highway, and now we're currently advertising externally for 2 recycle laborers.
How's recycling managing? You had to make any shifts in the recycling schedule because of being short?
No,
Too?
no,
Fabulous.
the guys that have been helping out, there's 2 of them. They either are attending school, or they're just recently out of school. And so they've been alternating 3 days and 2 days. And they're young guys, so they hustle and they know the job, so they're doing the job.
Great. Thank you for the
Motion
manager's
adjourned.
report. The bill listing. Ward 4? No, I'm just kidding. Any questions on bill listing? All right. Next is disposition of municipal records. Also you, Mike.
Yeah, so every so often, we have to clear out the files of stuff that we are mandated to keep so that we can make some room to keep the stuff that we are mandated to keep. So we follow the Pennsylvania Records Retention Manual, and every so often we have to pass, usually it's annually, we pass a resolution authorizing the disposition of records, and we have a list of those items that we are planning to get rid of at this time.
Do these things, will they continue to exist in digital form?
So some of the stuff we are going to scan, particularly like agenda materials, as being me to maintain like the memos that I write to the board. Because you never know when you have to go back in time and try and recreate, like, what were they thinking back then? Why would they do that? So.
Do you need to scan, because wouldn't you already have electronic copies and all these things?
So for the ones that since probably 2019, 2018, maybe. But before that, they're not available electronically.
If we have materials, we add to it.
Well, yours should be covered by most of this, if it's just agenda books and stuff. You can get rid of it, because we still have it.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's in your? It adds up. It adds up. Yeah.
Okay.
Hard to transition out of paper, I have to admit. And I know it's not necessary for me to keep them, but I do have too many of them because I keep thinking, I'm going to resort this by topic area. I'm not going to do that. All right. No issue there, sounds like. Next is a resolution honoring Robin for her 32 years. I don't think she wishes to come, is my memory.
Yeah, she's unable to make it. Rumor has it that she was going to Florida.
All right. So, but we should still honor her and grateful for her many years.
Florida.
To find her.
She probably had a bunch
Yeah.
The next item is executive. Then the bridge topic we've already covered. And any questions
Did you
on
skip over
either of
the
those
zoning
cases?
hearing board?
No, I'm in zoning hearing
Oh,
board.
okay.
The bridge church we've already
The
covered.
bridge project you're referring to?
Yep. Any other questions on zoning hearing board? All right, moving.
The only one I'll mention is that Jim and I were talking a little bit about it, the fence that AOB Ventures is seeking relief for. They want to put a 6-foot high chain link fence at the right of way line where a 15-foot setback from the street would be required. We brought to their attention that they were gonna have a problem there, and they continued to put the fence up anyway. And now it's kind of like going back to seek forgiveness.
After having been told, don't do it.
I'm sure that the zoning hearing board can handle it, you know, if there's merit to it, but I know you were pretty
This is
passionate about a fence.
near and dear to my heart. Where is it? Is it a neighborhood or,
This one's in Orland at the corner of Ulmer and Roche Avenues.
I mean, is it near houses or is it?
There's houses across the street.
The house is across the street.
Yeah.
It's industrial on two sides, and then across the street, there's some houses.
So is it where people walk? I mean, the thing is, it's hard to walk by a fence that's right on the
Yeah,
property.
and it's a corner, so
It's
it's
like,
two
you know, we
sides.
have elbows, you know what I mean? It's like-
Yeah, I would be open to opposing it. Zoning council opposing. Not just for the reason that 6 foot's onerous once that close to the sidewalk, but also that you brought it to their attention and they did it anyway.
I support it. Anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah, all that.
Okay.
Does that require us actually sending council or can we send a letter?
What do you, I would recommend, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, you could send a letter, but I think ordinarily you just send council to oppose it. Yeah. Cause then I can.
But what'll happen is Andy
Put on the case and.
probably gonna give a call to whoever, see if they're represented by council, and just say, hey, look, you're gonna have a problem here, that the board's gonna oppose this. So, and then that
See what they
usually
do.
Okay.
starts a conversation and.
Anyone opposed to that?
No. Glad we took a pause there. I thought we were gonna breeze right through that. Thank you, guys. Next up, Mr. Davy will be moved up if we wish to appoint Mr. Luce, as we discussed last. All right. Anything we need to do, Mike?
You're gonna, you go adopt that resolution.
All right, fabulous. Next. Of his preference, but we had three individuals that we wish to be on the committee.
Madam President, skip the recycling.
Did I skip the recycling report?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, I'm sorry. Do you have a comment on the recycling report?
I would just like it to be addressed.
All right.
That's all.
Would anyone like to address the recycling report? Jim Lee?
Okay, no comment.
You have an
All
updated
right.
one in your folders tonight.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
The price per ton went down slightly.
I almost breezed through zoning hearing.
Skip over this.
Now I'm going over recycling. I'm sorry, guys.
I was kidding. I said motion to adjourn.
So for the library, we have a couple individuals and it was discussed whether we could expand the library committee to accommodate the individuals who we really enjoyed and appreciated their expertise and the value they would add to the board. Looked into that and it sounds like in order to have two alternates, we'd have to change an ordinance to accommodate it. But it sounds like you offered another alternative option here.
Just throwing it out there, if you want to try and find a spot for everybody, call them associate members, which is what the EAC does. And then you've got, you know, a bench, you know, or a bullpen, so that like, if there is another vacancy, you can kind of just have them
I support this.
call them in.
Anyone else?
Support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
That's easy
It's a
peasy.
straightforward way, yeah.
Is there? There's 10 people. And I have no objection to that. I'm just bringing the point to make sure that that's not.
I think the EAC has these associate members, and I think this is a fair way of offering an opportunity for those aligned with what, you know, Commissioner Morris wanted to do, an opportunity to participate without foreclosing it. And it's- yeah, organic planning. Yeah, I think so.
Are you okay with moving Adam up to a voting member? He's the current alternate.
Yes.
And then move Katie in as the alternate.
Yes, I think so. All right. Anything else you need for that?
So is there any process to name somebody an associate member or?
Now you're just gonna designate him an associate, and the associate members don't have an expiration term either.
Do we
Could we-
designate them or does
You designate
we
them.
do?
Should they have expiration terms?
They don't for the EAC,
I think it's fine. Then you're not always.
because they're not voting.
Oh, okay. So that they, yeah, no need to officially designate them, just as
They
you wish.
attend, they participate, they help out, they
Yeah.
volunteer.
Well, and now we have a model for the future if we have a lot of people clamoring to be on parks or shade tree or something.
Yeah, these individuals already involved.
It's kind of what we did on Shade Tree, we just didn't call it that, we had two members who just, the
Showed
committee
up.
members who just kept showing up
Yeah.
and participating in events, but then when we actually did need to make some moves on the committee, there were two people that were really familiar with how the meetings ran, they were happy to then become our alternate, so it worked out great.
Great. Well, I guess that's just a good model moving forward that should we run into this again, we can always associatize individuals if we wish.
And we can just encourage people, if they want to be involved, if they don't want to, just start going to meetings.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we tried, there is a difference though when people have a title, I think, and an opportunity to have some additional engagement. So appreciate that this chance.
Like what you see, that, I mean, there's associates, then there's a lot of people who just
Show up.
every time, you know, which, I mean, and they all help and come with ideas, it's, you know. Any way we can encourage involvement, I think is great.
It's like being-
Agreed.
It's like being a vice liaison.
Come along, join the party, Thad. We're just like expanding everyone's time. All right, M is the Little League land use agreements. I don't think we have any further comment on that. Anyone? All right, so that's all set to be renewed, no issues there.
Actually, the one thing was, it sounded like the structure of the organization changed a little bit based on conversations. It was that the SPC was a separate org. And now it seems SPC is underneath the Little League.
So there was, it used to be, they needed their own 501c3, everything was supposed to be really separate. But Little League as an international, actually recently, over the last few years, allowed them to not be separate. But best practice is practically, what best practice with Little Leagues are, they're different boards, they're different leaders, so that though the interests of the main Little League is for the in-house. And then the travel team basically reports to them. So that the in-house is prioritized.
Right.
So that's really an internal thing now. And that's how they said they're gonna do it. I guess Kevin Clerkin is gonna be their president or director, and who will still be a signatory to our land use agreement. So we are mandating that.
And they're good with that. So it sounds like it's all trust.
Exactly.
Because their website says that they're not affiliated with, Springfield, it's separate.
You sure?
Oh, it did.
How recently?
I think originally.
I think like-
Originally.
I mean, they're on there, like the contacts are on there. Part of the.
I guess the question is whether they are, in your opinion.
We have them both as signatures.
Yeah.
And the land use agreement is clear about communication and who has priority. And they're also bound to the same.
Yeah, I think it's all addressed.
Thank you. Is the grant to it for the solar? All right, I think that brings us to time. We are open back up for public. Going to executive for, I believe, 3 items.
I have one thing
All right,
before you go into an executive pension meeting. You need to set up a quarterly pension meeting. Can you look at your calendars for Tuesday, the 17th at 4 p.m.
of February?
February?
February? There's no way it's been a quarter.
That's last quarter.
No, it hasn't been a quarter since we met, has it?
Yeah. Come on. You met here probably 5 times since then. Tuesday, the 17th at 4, Tuesday, the 3rd of March at 4, or Wednesday, the 11th of March at 4.
For me, Wednesday, but flexible.
3rd and
Not
11th,
available.
from 3rd and 11th.
It was 17 or.
Wednesday, the 11th is the initial preference by someone.
Because you have a meeting that night as well.
That's our business meeting.
Okay.
We doing Zoom or we doing what?
I would do Zoom, make it more convenient for everybody.
The 11th, 17th, the most good is open.
March 3rd, 17th, 3rd, and 11th.
I'm okay with anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah, if we're doing Zoom,
All right. Then let's do March 11th pension meeting at 4 PM. March 11th. Sounds good. All right, let's do that. And it's Zoom. My calendar adjusted it to pension, just for some reason, Spanish language autocorrect. Right. It looks like we do not have any additional. Yes. All right. In that case, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
You don't need.
Just kidding. Then we can end the executive. Thank you so much. We will not become individuals on Zoom. Thank